tournament.
Super tournament, that's right. This tournament, if you turn your back, it'll start flying around and saving damsels in distress. This tournament is so super. And welcome back to the round of 64. We have seen some really great games. You know, a lot of people like skip out on the round of 64 because they're like, oh, it's not as important. But man, the games have been really, really cool.
They have been.
Both yesterday and today. We've seen some really good matchups and some players that, you know, I think a lot of people maybe were like, I don't think Ryung's going to beat Inca, but came out and upset. And here we have the newer player, MVP Keen, taking out TSL Rain, veteran player. So, are we going to have another upset here? We got another.
We've got oGsjookTo and anypro, and I have to say, anypro, his results are pretty good. He took out July Zerg. That's nothing to smirk at.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really... This is going to be an interesting match. I think definitely anypro is the favorite here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the players here real quick. And there we go. oGsjookTo, 47th in the GSL rank. First Protoss has 1 win and 2 losses. And look at that bottom number. 1 win and 9 losses in the last 10 sets. oGsjookTo is bad. By the way, in case you didn't know, he's actually pretty bad. The only game he can win, though, this is what he has going for him today, is versus Protoss. He's like, I don't remember exactly what it is, but he's like 1-8 versus Terran and like 2-11 versus Zerg or something like that. But versus Protoss, he's actually 7-5. He's got a winning record versus Protoss. Now, a lot of those wins were back in the good old days of
the open tournament.
The open tournaments. You know, but he did, he beat like Legal Mind back in March, in the wild cards at least. He actually beat Cruncher recently in the FXO Invitational. Pretty decent foreign Protoss player. So he can beat Protoss, so he's got that going for him at the very least. But yeah, he's also lost recently to Lots in the Asian Champions Tournament, lost to Songho and Kode. So we'll see if he can beat this guy, anypro. Another kind of deceptive record here. 5 wins and 5 losses versus Zerg, 6 wins and 3 losses. But I mean, look at the Zergs he's faced. He went 1-3 versus Nesty. He beat July 3-2 after going 1-3 to July the previous season. So he's had some really hard competitors, some really tough competitors.
Yeah, and he's done quite well. I have to say, anypro is one of my favorite Protoss players. I always like kind of the underdog Protoss, the ones that aren't that well known and have some pretty good results like San Zenith. I think anypro is one of those guys. I think he's got a lot of potential. If he just calms down and improves the finer things that he's got to work on, I think he's got a ton of potential.
Are you a fan of Protosses that look like Homer Simpson?
You think he looks like Homer Simpson? I think he does really a little bit. Have you ever seen, I don't know if you ever caught a glimpse of a show called Kim Possible, but there's this monkey character, and I think anypro looks like that character. I don't know, I'm sure people who watch the show know what I'm talking about.
All right. Good.
Kim Possible reference.
Is that a
GSL?
That sounds like a children's cartoon.
I may have seen it when I was younger, once or twice.
Okay.
I have a younger sister.
Good excuse. All right, fair enough. I'll buy that. Anyway, no, I haven't seen Kim Possible. I'm sorry, I don't know. I do not know.
I haven't really seen it that often, but I
do not know of the Kim Possible monkey.
There's a monkey-like character, and he looks like him.
Speaking of which, though, actually the monkeys aren't in Caverns. I can't tie that in. Xelnog and Caverns is going to be the first map. And oGsjookTo on the left has not had success for a long time. anypro, a recent strong competitor, got the semifinals a couple seasons ago, I believe. Let's see what happens in game 1.
oGsjookTo versus anyproPrime.WE.
And here is our Zerg player representing the OGS team. He's had middling success recently, did decently in the open seasons. Can he come back and prove himself to be a strong player still?
oGsjookTo.
oGsjookTo doing an extractor trick to get Alexa drone out. There he is. And anypro has a little bit less to prove, but still needs to have a strong showing in this tournament to show that he is a competitor in the next season of CoS. He is.
anyproPrime.WE.
Go, anyproPrime. Homer Simpson toss. I think the last time he played, some people actually brought in like cheerfuls.
Yes, it was pretty funny.
Did he go down to Code A? I forgot.
Yes, I
believe he did.
Actually, I don't think so. No, he didn't, because he made it really far in the Codas as far as I remember.
We'll double check that in the background. But he's going to get a very early scout in and see exactly what's going on in the Zerg base.
Yeah, he does see it's going to be a Speedling expand.
And let's see, he did, in fact, yes, he actually did. You're right, he got to the round of 16 before losing, so he's in Codas. So my bad. I was thinking of someone else, I guess. Yeah, so oGsjookTo here, definitely the underdog. Has decent game versus Protoss, but anypro coming off of getting very far, not last season, but the previous season, until losing to Jelizerg in the semifinals.
Yeah, he took I think he took 2 games off of Jelizerg in that series, or maybe it was just 1, but I was impressed with that. And, and so for that reason, I think he's definitely got some strong PvZ. That's one particular series in particular that I think is pretty telling of his skill.
Yeah. Oh, maybe he got the round of 8 last season. I apologize. Yes. Anyway, but yeah, he came back then as well and beat Jelizerg 2-1 this last season. So I got my stats wrong there. But yeah, so he's a very, very strong player versus Zerg. He's played against the top level. oGsjookTo, he's got, like I said, he's got a lot to prove here. He hasn't shown any results in a long time. He really kind of needs to do well here, or people are really not going to take him seriously.
Exactly. You know, he actually used to be on the clan. I don't know if you guys remember a time when he was known as oGsjookTo Jung, and I believe that clan is all but disappeared completely. So he didn't really have that many practice partners from the beginning. So he's definitely one of those players who he's made it this far almost on his own, and you have to give him credit for that. Actually, just some Zerglings running around trying to spot if there's a Nexus.
Yep. No speed. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, it looks like we're going to have anypro doing a Sentry expand, but masking it with a Stalker. And oGsjookTo just doesn't know, he doesn't quite know what to expect because he saw the Stalker, so he has to play a little bit safer than perhaps he expected to.
Yeah, he got that Stalker out early so he can fend off Overlords that are trying to fly in the base or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it also looks a little bit different. I mean, oftentimes if you see that Stalker and Zealot only, you're like, uh-oh, he's saving gas for like a Stargate or something. So you're not sure what's going on as a Zerg player. So trying to psych him out a little bit maybe by getting that Stalker as well. And the Sentry's going to have a little bit less energy, but he's probably going to start putting out more Sentries anyway. And there's that pylon at the bottom ramp, but the Overlord is going into his base that he doesn't see.
Zergling is just really, really trying to find out whether or not this is going to be some sort of sneaky 4-gate. Really wants to see that Nexus. Overlord is going to come in here. Does see the Nexus now. Warp gates are finishing.
I think he might be going for that the Roach Ling attack that we see a lot lately. That was kind of premiered by Lucira when he beat Alicia in Code S. And there's that expansion. Zergling's harassing it a little bit. But I think he's probably going to go for the build where you get like, well, maybe not. There's +1 melee. But anyway, the build where you get like 6 to 8 roaches, attack and rally speedlings, and if they're moving out and they're vulnerable, they only have sentries, you can crush the sentries if they don't have anything meatier to actually deal the damage behind the force fields.
Exactly.
But look at that hallucination being researched.
Yeah, he's got that hallucination really, really fast. In fact, he didn't even get a forge up. He just wanted that hallucination ASAP. He wants to really be able to scout and see exactly what oGsjookTo is doing. And he's actually getting +1 melee attacks rather than missile attacks right off the bat, which is an unusual choice. You don't see that all too often.
No,
so he definitely wants to make really strong use of those Zerglings.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting because I mean, Zerglings, they're hard to make work in mid game versus Protoss because all they need is force fields and your Zerglings can't get at them.
Right.
Or all they need to do is make Zealots, and Zealots usually do pretty well against Zerglings. So
exactly. So really good scouting with these hallucinations. Was able to get into the base.
Yeah,
oGsjookTo.
Really consistently scouting too. As soon as that one was about to run out of energy, he made another hallucination to run around the map as well. So, except that hallucination is stopped moving. Now it's moving again to do another scout, make sure he didn't just make a new building. He saw that the lair wasn't completed, so he kind of needs to wait for the lair to complete to find out what tech is going on.
Yeah, he's just trying to check, are you killing the rocks? Are you thinking about taking a third base? Are you trying to do a timing attack? I don't really need any cannons, do I? So he's not going to make any cannons. So really, really smart use of that hallucination. And really all he wants to know is, what kind of lair tech are you getting, and do I need to make cannons right now? And he was able to get all of that information. Start his robotics facility.
Interesting. He's going for speed for his overlords and roach speed as well. No drops though. This is really interesting. The +1 is finished for those Zerglings. I wonder if he maybe wants those to have more damage so he can snipe buildings and probes faster with counterattacks maybe.
Yeah, sometimes when you have the Zerglings with the +1, it makes it much easier to force cancels on Nexi. So I think that may be what his plan is here. In fact, he's moving those roaches and speedlings in the direction of the potential third base, so it looks like that's what he's got in mind with those units. He's actually oGsjookTo taking his third base right now as well. Looks like that Phoenix wants to go and spot it.
Wow, he is being super consistent with these hallucinated Phoenixes, checking all the time, making sure there's no tech going up, and he does know he does barely spot the Spire just before that hallucination went down, and +2 melee weapons being started for oGsjookTo.
And you know what that means? You see the +2 weapons on the Spire? It's going to be a Mutiling type of build, where after you use the roaches to be aggressive, you just transition to tons of Mutalists. And look at these Zerglings running in past the force field. He's going to do a ton of damage to these sentries. Takes out a sentry, almost getting a second one, but not quite.
And you know what? With his low sentry count, to be honest, that was pretty much worth the Zerglings to get that sentry. He's only got 5 sentries left now, which is only infinity force fields.
Exactly.
No, but that means that those sentries won't really last more than... Oh, never mind. I was wrong. He had 5 at that part of his army. He's got a ton of other sentries, so never mind. He's got enough force fields for multiple battles, and here's that counterattack coming in. Cannon's not complete yet. They're going to take out some probes. Roaches as well. Might just target down the Nexus or something. He might be able to target down some tech as well, and he's actually not going to be in a position to retreat. Oh force field, nice, barely keeping those roaches out.
And anypro looks like he wants to come back. He's actually pulled off most of his forces, heading back. Leaving 2 stalkers to be annoying, but he is going to lose that Nexus. And I think turning around was a terrible choice, because now he's lost his Nexus and the roaches can just retreat, so he's run all the way back. He's not even going to kill the army of his opponent, and he didn't really damage his economy either.
Yeah, that was really bad for anypro. Lost a lot, didn't really gain anything, didn't do the damage that push had done, and now oGsjookTo can defend his third successfully, whereas he probably couldn't have if he'd just gone straight ahead with that attack.
Exactly. Now, anypro, I think, just wanted to hit a timing with 6 gateways in the robotics and just crank out a ton of units and punish that third base, but it just so happened that oGsjookTo was able to circumvent his attack. Now his attack, though, from anypro is moving forward is going to be really scary, but tons of spine crawlers being made right now for oGsjookTo. He should be able to hold this no matter what if those spine crawlers get up. Yeah,
he knows that...
That is 13 spine crawlers.
That's a lot of spine crawlers. And a Baneling Nest just for fun in the front there. He knows that if he's taking out anypro's second, if he holds his second, he'll be ahead. And here it comes in. The Baneling Nest is in a really silly position. Force field's going down for some reason. And I guess to block the roaches from going in. There's a lot of sentries there, but he doesn't have enough damage dealing. And the spine crawler's just barely finally getting up. Hitting him back though. Mutalist coming in from the top, but there are so many sentries there. Guardian Shield is up, and he's forced to retreat just because he has tons of sentries, but no actual damage-dealing units like Stalkers. And here come the roaches.
Be very careful with his force fields, isolating some of those roaches, taking the front ones out. But oGsjookTo looks like now that his spine crawlers are done, he should be able to hold this no matter what. And honestly, any